A lot can happen between falling in love with a house online and owning it, between imagining living there and breathing in your new home for the first time. Having an advocate who can help you navigate the complex world of financing, inspections, negotiating, analyzing the market, and talking through any anxieties that may pop up, that can make all the difference. That's what the expertise of a Realtor can do for you. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors and bound by a code of ethics, because that's who we are.
What's up, y'all? This is Tim Einecke. Welcome to the library. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at kosher22. Also, check us out on www.rapstation.com. That's rapstation.com. We'll continue our conversation with J Zone. He's the author of Root for the Villain, Rap, BS, and The Celebration of Failure. In the book, as well as, obviously right now, you talk about your appreciation of the album as a whole. And in it, you write, album art and liner notes are just as much part of the consumption of music as music itself. So I was actually wondering, with MP3s coming in, do you think the future of an album, the concept of an album is, I guess, dead as a whole? And also, will there never be a great album again in the eyes of J-Zone?
I can't say there'll never be a great album. You can never say that. and, you can't say the albums are dead, but you kind of have to wonder. I mean, if people have the option of picking... See, our attention span as listeners is super short. Actually, my last album was a collection of malt liquor commercials, like the St. Ives commercial. I did that on purpose because I was like, if every song is a minute, then people will listen to it. And I was wrong. But
the ADD culture.
Yeah, it's just like we're like, a 30-second, like we listen for the beat and the first couple of lines and then skip. Right. But like, and you working with Chuck, obviously you're probably familiar with Son of Berserk.
Yeah.
So, like, let's take Son of Berserk, which to me is one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time and the most underappreciated hip-hop album of all time. You take a song like Change the Style. If you play that for 20 seconds, you're not going to hear all the crazy stuff that happens in that record 2 minutes in, like a minute and a half. Like, they go into doo-wop, they go into reggae. It's like you have to have attention span to even get to these nooks and crannies in the song, these peaks and valleys. And albums are about peaks and valleys to me. Like listening to Death Certificate, an album like that, or America's Most Wanted, where you're going into these, Black Sheep's first album, the Tim Dog album, some of the NWA stuff, like Dale, of course, all the Prince Paul projects. You got stuff like that might be a skit or like a thing in a song where things change and it's like 3 minutes into the song. If you don't have attention span, you won't even hear it. And I feel like the option of, picking the song, I think a lot of it came because albums in general got weaker and people got tired of paying $20 when they only wanted 3 songs.
Right.
But, from an artist standpoint, like the incentive to create stuff like that starts to go down because you feel like nobody's going to listen. Like even with my book, like there's certain things that are in chapters and, sometimes you wonder, you write it because you feel it, but then you're like, is anybody even going to notice that? Like, or are they just going to skim through it?
Right.
Are they going to just look for the parts that they want? Like I've written blogs and people would say, yo, Jay, you didn't mention this guy, or Jay, you didn't do this. I'm like, yeah, I did in the 5th paragraph in the middle. So I just think as we've just become a very dumbed down, I make no qualms about saying we're a 140 character society.
Right. We
really are. Where everything is 140 characters, LOL, OMG, smiley face, like very surface level, short attention span, fast food, disposable society. That's what we're in. And I think, a lot of the stuff I appreciated in music and writing and everything is subtlety. We go for the and I kept that in mind writing my book. I used the funny shock value stuff to pull people in, right, hoping that they'll read and catch the subtleties. Like, so that's my bait. Like the humor and the the outlandishness is the bait, but the stories and the details that come in and the way I try to do the writing, those are the subtleties, and I'm hoping that that'll do that. But I really, don't have my hopes up too high. Like, our attention span is just super short, and we're just in a different kind of world now, and I've yet to adjust to that.
One chapter, which is short, and it's the last 2-3 pages of your book, but you talk about your grandmother.
Right.
And it had me rolling. I mean, It was because everyone knows a grandmother like that. So but at the same time, I could tell that you obviously have a love for your grandmother, and you take care of her, and she has taught you so much. So what I was wondering is, the best part is your grandmother has mastered the art of the buzzkill, which is just hilarious when I was reading it. And then the pooping in the car, blah blah blah. It was like crazy moments. So I was wondering why did you without giving anything away, why did you decide to end the book with her?
Well, I wanted to end the book on a light note, and I started the book by talking about my grandfathers,
right?
Who basically, even though we're night and day in many ways, a lot of their characteristics as people, a lot of their idiosyncrasies that they had affected me and molded me growing up. And Jay's own, the art, like a lot of the things I do, like won't make sense to people, and even to my grandfathers, they wouldn't make sense. But a lot of that behavior stemmed from them, and just watching them be strong men who went through a lot of nonsense and BS, who came up in rough times and had a lot of pressure on their shoulders, like watching how they handled that, like that's what enables me to like get a handle on everything that I address in the book. And my grandfather's passed away, but, my grandmother was kind of like a way to tie it all together, in that I just have so much respect for the generations before me, just the whole book is just like, showing respect to like old school protocol, old school ways of communicating, the elder generation, records, 8-tracks, cassettes, talking on a landline, sending somebody a letter, when a man could dress like a man, like just everything, like, a Facebookless world, a Twitterless world. Some of the things I miss about that direct communication, going to talk to somebody, sitting on, the show 227, the 80s sitcom, they used to go talk on the stoop.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't see that anymore. Like, you'll see two people sitting next to each other, texting each other. I've seen that happen, and it's just like, she's just from an era, we don't see eye to eye because she's from a different generation, but it's just showing appreciation to what led to where I am, and something that's so different than what's going on in the world now, like her values and what she's seen, and just tying it together with the grandparents as a foundation. It was why I ended it with that.
And you also have with video games, kids don't have to actually go to the same place to play video games anymore.
Well, when I was growing up, we had Atari 2600 and Nintendo.
Nice work.
Atari,
nice.
Donkey Kong, you hop over the barrels, you climb the ladder, you save the princess. After 8 minutes, the game is over. You play Frogger, you get 5 frogs into the slots at the top, 15 minutes, game over. Pac-Man, you just keep playing until it gets too hard, 20, 30 minutes, game over. Nintendo was maybe an hour or two, a little more advanced, but we would go out and live life afterwards, play football, play basketball, talk to a girl, go to the library, read a book, go record shopping, do different things. And it's like we've just become consumed by gadgets and stuff. And, I sound like a grumpy old man by talking about this stuff, but, people who come up in this society don't realize it. Like, I've had people say LOL to me and not laugh. I'm like, do you know LOL is supposed to stand for laugh out loud? So just laugh. Wouldn't it be easier to laugh?
Yeah.
It's just, and I'm like over the top and really raw with my language and offensive, about it, because I grew up listening to Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and Paul Mooney and Red Fox and Two Live Crew. So like I'm very flip at the tongue, but the message at the core is like this stuff is stupid.
Nice.
So it's definitely like a lot of the book is just appreciation for things that I just missed that are no longer around.
We'll continue our conversation with Jay Zone, author of Root for the Villain, Rap BS, and the Celebration of Failure.
I'm still back in the days, but now the year is 87, 88. That's when my crew and I were in junior high in 7th grade. I hated school. No doubt I couldn't wait to get out and be a grown-up. But let me finish this, reminiscing and telling about when girls were spelling tight corduroys like for the boys, basket weaves, Nike Cortez and footsie socks, and eating pickles with Tootsie Pops, and it don't stop. I'm glad, 'cause Cause when JJ Fair did Supersonic, it was kinda like a sport to wear biker shorts or to wear jeans, and it seemed like the masses of hoochies had poison airbrushed on their asses. Dudes had on Nike suits and the Pumas with the fat laces, cause it was either that or K-Swiss. I missed those days, and so I pout like a grown jerk, wishing all I had to do now was finish homework. It's true, you don't realize really what you got till it's gone, and I'm not gonna sing another sad song, but sometimes I do sit and reminisce and think about the years I was raised. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid.
It's one thing falling in love with a house, picturing yourself moving in and calling it home, and quite another navigating the world of price negotiating, mortgage lenders, and finding the budget that works best for you. An agent who's a Realtor can make understanding that world easier. Realtors have the expertise, access to proprietary data, and tools to help you get from imagining living somewhere to actually doing it. That's the kind of help we can provide. Because that's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.